Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. How is the sound? Is it all great? Okay. So I have created something today. The speech, actually, I didn't really want to base it on my work or, like the things that I have done, but mostly about my journey. So I wanted to actually create some thinking or provoke some, thinking about like what the future can bring you if you start to plan your career, and if you're thinking too far, too near. I wanted to just give you some examples through my personal journey, and hoping that that could actually create some interest here. But before we getting in there, I actually wanted to go through a little bit of introduction for myself. My name is Oya Ozmen. I'm originally from Turkey. I have graduated from a school very similar to this, Bilkent University. So it was the faculty Art, Design and Architecture, and my department was Interior Architecture and Environmental Design. That was long years ago to me, but maybe it's not long enough. Then that actually started a journey, a creativity journey, 23 years so far, and counting, and I hope there's another 23 years with this, because it's full of excitement, energy and all that. But through that journey, I have actually tried a few things. Initially, I've started with an architectural firm. I was doing the detail designs and all that, and I realized that's not something that I can keep doing at that age. I moved on to luxury furniture sales type of thing. So it was like project sales with customers, clients, one-to-one, but it's designing in their home. That didn't go very well either. It was maybe like 8 months, a year in both of those things. And then I had a dream about starting my own streetwear brand, because that was the time I was very much into nightclubs, music, streetwear, design, that kind of thing. So I started that company for a little bit. Maybe like 3-4 years it went on, and then I jumped into retailing. I started with the fashion retailing, that streetwear thing that opened some doors for me in the fashion retailing, and I started as a store manager in one of the fashion clothing stores, Mango, and I started slowly realizing that I'm drifting away and away from my design career. There is nothing to do with architecture, interior architecture, all that. So I sort of course corrected a little bit. I saw IKEA had some openings still back in Turkey, and I started in there with one of their store openings as a communication and interior design manager. So there was at least a part of everything in there. There was still some retailing, there was project management, there was a team of creatives, design people that I can work with. It was a lot of fun, designing new stores, designing store solutions. So I've done this. I've opened 2 full-size stores, until I realized IKEA is actually quite a big world. I can go explore beyond where I'm at. And then I moved out of Turkey for the first time. I moved to UK, to London in 2013. Again, with a similar function, so it was design-based. First in a very established store in south of London, somewhere called Croydon. And there was a store there with the design team, and there was some challenges that they've been given to remodel the entire store, and it's quite an old store. You need to, deal with like a lot of challenges that are given by the building. So I have done that about maybe 2.5 years. Moved to expansion in the UK, so another part of London, but opening different types of customer meeting points. Trying like shopping center, city center, pop-ups, different versions, different things. And then this actually led another network connection, maybe if we go with that team. This led to a opening through my connections in the US. So this was 2017 with a regional capacity. I actually came to US. I worked 3 jobs since I came to US. It's been about 7.5, coming to 8 years. Currently, I'm working as a project manager, mainly responsible from the Southern California expansion, opening new stores, new formats, different approach, because the physical world of retailing is changing to or merging with the digital world. So they now call it omni-channel. So design all of a sudden became not a physical building thing, but more of a, variety of meeting with the customer. So this parts of this I'm going really fast, but I will touch back on that through the chapters of this. But this is my journey so far and going, and I try to really lead everything with a creativity as a central theme. Whatever it's design or not, I always try to keep the creativity alive, because that in fact keeps me alive. That's what I found out. So that's a little bit about me. This QR code is for my LinkedIn profile. If you want to connect with me, message on anything, I'm happy to connect, message, whatever the way you want to connect, I'm happy to do so. And now, moving on to the lecture. I actually wanted to start with a warm welcome. Thanks for being here again. And I also wanted to start with an icebreaker. And in here, I actually want to aim a question, maybe give you 1 or 2 minutes. And then start with this. If you can actually take 1 to 2 minutes of your time, you can type on your phone, on your computer, write somewhere as a note, what's the dream job you want right after college, and what makes you the happiest outside of school or work. I wanted you to think about this because through my journey, I realized those were 2 very different things, and when you try to combine them two, it generally doesn't work very well. Like the thing that you like very much becomes not very likable anymore, but it's also, I think, up for reflection, and I want you to reflect on it after we complete the lecture today. Because I think life isn't linear. Really, what we are thinking is that you start somewhere when, whenever we have something ahead of us, we always think that we start somewhere, we build towards an aspiration of something, but in reality, really, life takes so many unexpected turns. And I think I wanted to actually highlight with today's session, I wanted to highlight that, the perspectives and priorities evolve over time. And then, I want to challenge the conventional narratives a little bit here today. So with this, I actually want to start with some myth busting. I have actually come up with 2 myths in here. Those 2 I want to talk about one of them is the standard storytelling trap. So if you can think about like a Pixar story format, something like that, you have like a one big life event, you overcome that big life event, and then it's like happily ever after. And this could be something like we always think about, like when I finish school, I'll get a job, and then I will move up to to my dream job, whatever that might be. I'll maybe get into a relationship, maybe I'll get married, I'll have kids, then kids are gonna hit 2 years old, 3 years old, and you're always thinking that then it's gonna be the life that I dream. Then it's gonna be the life, but it's actually never that. It never comes to that point, because that storytelling of that happily ever after, I don't think that's the reality. That's only a movie arc, really. And I wanted to start a little bit about my dream job, because I wanted to start my own business. I was thinking that's going to be the end of everything that I wanted in my life. So at the age of around 22, I started my own brand. I went out, made some design deals. I opened a store. There was DJ music going on all day long. So I can party during the day and I can party during the night. This was the idea. But it wasn't very smart. And then I started to going with this and realizing it's actually nothing to do with design. Majority of the work that I've been dealing with was like the tax officers, you know, people complaining about the business, trying to find, you know, what sells, what doesn't sell, how much money I can make by the end of the month so I can actually create the next design, next line. So it became something like what I dreamt that was going to be so much fun, because I was just going to hang out with my friends listening to music all day long. By the time I was going to make money, that was never the case. You know, like it went on and it wasn't successful. It wasn't unsuccessful at all. It was actually doing well. It was turning itself. We were actually able to generate a lot of income from it to, you know, to freeload a lot of our friends, partying, all that kind of stuff. That's perfect. But, you know, it only creates additional workload for you, which a lot of people benefits, but you don't benefit at the end. So it went on about maybe 3 years, 3.5 years. Then I started to think about maybe I should be in the design business a lot more. Other parts of the business somebody else takes care of, so I can be in a larger company, a corporation, something like this. So this was the thinking process. But thinking about that, when I start my own business, I'll make it. That's going to be the end of my life. This was only actually like a small trial in my yet to come career journey, design journey ahead. And I think if like from that, what I've learned is that success is not like a final destination. You know, like you want to understand that it's a continuous journey, and you add to your portfolio of knowledge, portfolio of learning and education as you do those things. And then future, most of the time in that experience, I have realized that future is actually a little bit too long to think about like what happens in 15, 20, 25 years ahead of me, because it wasn't very predictable, and I've been evolving together with the journey or the career that I wanted to do. So I would like to suggest you that don't let any one thing to define you as a whole. So it's like a, you know, variety of bunch of things that comes together, and most likely multiple iterations of the same person coming alive. The second myth that I want to look at is the traditional dad advice. In here, I was actually thinking about this topic more and more because it was valid at one point in time. And I think we've just moved away from that one point quite a lot. And this myth is actually like get into a good industry or a path and then you're set for life. And it's very similar to the first one, but a little bit different with, you know, people thinking about that, you know, you become a lawyer and then you're good, or become a doctor and you're good. But it never is like that, because it's like whatever the profession or industry you're getting in, it's actually, there are two parts in there. You are evolving and the industry around you is evolving. And then you need to find iterations of that over and over again. And in that example, I actually wanted to bring you 23 years after where we have started and today's situation for me. So the latest changes in my career that I wanted to take on. As I shared with you through my introduction, I actually insisted on staying on the design based departments or parts of the company, even though we have like different parts, different areas that I can try to learn and understand. I was actually a little bit, you know, like stuck in that I like design, I worked in the design field all the time, I want to continue with this. And with this I realized actually about maybe 2.5 years ago I was limiting myself a little bit, because there are a lot of opportunities. I can actually, one thing I can learn a completely different function or a department or a generalist function. Another thing is that I can move into a direction that I can promote more if I open up my glass ceiling on top of me. I decided 2.5 years ago, maybe like leave this design part of the company that I work in and become a more generalist person. So project manager is actually kind of a transitioning role, but what I opened up myself, talking to, like the leadership in the US, I wanted to become a generalist, like a high-level management. Maybe it could be a store manager or a, country department manager, something like this. But that was actually a process for me to, come out of my comfort zone, my functional competence, and start over again. Because I was in a place after doing this 17, 18 years in the same company, same function. I was super comfortable with what I'm doing. I was like able to do it like half asleep. And this is actually kind of a sleeping pill, because then you start to feel like, okay, this is going really well and I can do that forever, my entire life. But then it's almost like you're creating this limit for yourself, and then it doesn't go anywhere after this. So coming out of this comfort zone, functional competence and knowledge, I actually opened up myself to learn a lot. Since then, it's been 2.5 years. I am actually feeling incompetent, and I don't know nothing every day. And it doesn't feel good, but it's interesting to explore, because until you hit a point that you are feeling super comfortable, it's hard to understand this. But like lane change sometimes might be a good idea. And I think what this makes me is that this new chapter in my life has actually created some excitement now for me. So it's like a new thing for me that I can actually learn and grow and become something else in myself. And I think this, I wanted to quote this Charles Darwin's famous quote, is that it's the most strongest, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but one that the most adaptable to change. So I wanted to actually bring this to your attention, that this lifetime security lies in your own hands, and then you can always adapt to change of the nature of the industry or the area that you're working with, or you can change through your personal journey and still stay relevant with the work. So maybe that's something to think about when you're doing career choices or career paths or planning for yourself. So those were the 2 myths that I wanted to talk. And then from here, I want to come back that reality check. So I want to say, like, let's do a reality check. We talked about life is not linear. We talked about a few myths about, what the career can be like. But in here, I'm thinking like there are 8 billion, roughly 8 billion people in the world, and I'm thinking 8 billion ways to live. Really, in here, that identity is fluid, and then, we don't want to let one job or one failure or one success to define us. Back in Turkey, when I was actually working in that department, and I was 4.5, 5 years in my career, and I actually understand the structure of the company and how it works. There is this IKEA concept. They define a concept in a store, and you must, if you visited IKEA, you must be familiar with this. But you start with the store, you go into a showroom type of thing with the furniture, you have room settings in there, real life environment, and then you finish everything in that showroom. And that's the idea with the company, is that you actually you get inspired from all those room settings and real life settings, and then that actually starts to turn your shopping behavior on, and then you start, as soon as you come down, or you start with you also have the restaurant, you eat something, you're full of ideas, your belly is full, you're ready to shop, and then you go downstairs. The idea is that you are in that maze buying everything, because you can't miss anything. So there is this concept that they teach, it's all this corporate stuff, and I became really good at it. Like, I became familiar with that, so that I opened 2 standard stores with that, because in Turkey they were expanding. But then in my head I was thinking, okay, what's next for me? Because it's like, if I sit down and wait for them to open another store, maybe that might not happen. or I can just go into a regular role in a store or in a corporate office, and then I do like, I don't know, seasonal changes, whatever, all that kind of different things. But I was also then realizing there are more opportunities if I actually open up a horizon. So like now I'm opening up not the location but the job, but back then I was opening the location in my head. So I thought like, okay, if I go globally, I can probably find places that they're opening those stores, and I can continue doing that all the time. And I applied multiple jobs, like 20s, 30s of them, and within the company you would expect that they would, you know, it's easier. Many I failed, but I have actually landed 2. One was in the UK, one was in Japan, and I was super excited about Japan, but it didn't happen. That actually, in that moment, it makes you a little bit of like reality check, right? Like, what do I want? What's next for me? And my initial reaction was like, I was thinking the rest of my life, I'm going to go to Japan, or I'm going to go to UK, and that's going to be my life. It's always like this, you know, like this endpoint logic in my brain. Then I started to learn about breaking it apart. But what I pushed myself is that what do I want in the next 1 to 2 years, something like this. So if I can actually start it a little bit shorter, then maybe it's easier for me to decide, and then I can actually pivot if I need to pivot, or I can change, you know, course correct my route if I'm not happy. We made a decision because I was at the time with my current husband was my boyfriend, so we made a decision to go and try the UK. We moved to London. I worked 4.5 years, and sure enough, they were actually opening new stores. More than that, they were actually opening new formats. So I bring some of my expertise and, you know, knowledge with the concept and the standard stores that I know of, but I've also learned a lot more than that, because they were opening some stores in shopping centers, which wasn't a thing at the time for IKEA. Then it started to become another concept. They were opening some pop-up concepts with that, you know, like you sell hot dogs or meatballs or coffee in, you know, hip places like Shoreditch, or like, you know, those places that people generally doesn't think about IKEA as a brand for themselves, like more, you know, younger, maybe furniture is not a thing for them at that point. So those, you know, trying to attract those kind of customers. And I think now then I realized, because this was about 10, 12 years ago now, this was the beginning of that omni-channel. Okay, how do we actually reach more of the many people with going to them instead of expecting in the potato field somewhere they come and find you. So that was very interesting, and I actually got a lot from that 4.5 years, 5 years. But what enabled me actually is thinking about this short term, because if I were to try to make a decision for the lifetime ahead of me, it was a little more pressure. But then thinking about 1 to 2 years, okay, what do I want to do next? What's in the store for me, and what's gonna give me, like, you know, a lot of experience, a lot of fun of doing something. And then it moved into the next 2 years, and it moved into the next 2 years, and it's like, you know, this iteration of the career that develops itself a little bit. So yeah, with that I actually always try to make my lifestyle choices or life choices in small chunks, and if it gets more difficult, I reduce the chunks. Like if it's, you know, if it's a harder decision, I try to take the decision for the next 6 months or 2 months, or, you know, whatever that might be. So as I said, like 8 billion people on earth, and 8 billion ways to live and define success. So the concept that I want everybody to take out of this is that, you know, view your life as a unique and evolving journey rather than a fixed path, because you can never guess it, and it will never work that way anyway. So if you can actually reduce the time frame and then reduce the focus into one little thing at a time, I think building blocks makes a better career rather than trying to plan the whole thing. And another couple of lessons that I have learned from this is that not everyone's path is the same. Most of the time one size doesn't fit all at all. And if you actually try, because there was a lot of advice given to me, more like grown-up people, my family, all of those people, and they were mostly defining me someone else's path or someone else's job function, because they've been successful, you are able to be successful in that. But for myself, I was thinking my path is my path. I can only create that, and then I was trying to go after this. So, yeah. So now a little bit about reflection. If we think about these blocks of 5 years, what do you think, how many 5-year blocks do you have after college? Like, think about this for a second. From, like, you can also do that 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, and then imagine for a second, like, what do you expect from those 5 years blocks? Do you want, like, like a career achievement? Do you want to move somewhere? Do you want to, start a family? Like, what are those 5 years that you can envision? I think that's very interesting reflection to make from time to time, and also try to think about, like, lower than the 5 years. So in the 4th year, 3rd year, 2nd year type of thing. Because I try to, like, I still to this date, I try to understand what am I going to go in 5 years time. And there is this really cliche questions in the interviews that they will ask you, where do you want to be in 5 years time or 10 years time, that kind of thing. I think that comes from this, because it's like what I try to picture with you here is that you can't really plan everything in your life, and whatever you think about that next 5 years and the 5 years block after that, it's not going to happen exactly, for sure. But if you also, like, free ride, whatever comes, I'll take it, then you might not end up where you want to be. So it's a point of, like, thinking, okay, I want to go with those small steps, I want to be here, and if it doesn't work, then okay, micro pivot, maybe I want to be here, but I don't want to be here, right? So it's trying to understand that kind of thing will give you some understanding of, where you can be. And it's not going to be there, but close. So, this manageable time blocks. I had this actually fit really well with what I wanted to talk about, because why do you think many people regret tattoos that they got in the college? I have one right here. I can't show you, but it's horrible. It's really bad. But I think it's, of course, like, identity evolves, right? And then your career choices evolve with this. And I think this example that I have given you for the streetwear brand that I have started, if I were to stay with that today, I would have really hated it, because it's like, it's going to be everybody, like, young and hip, and I won't fit in some way or the other. It's very interesting to reflect back and forward. So as I mentioned before, I try to frame my life and career with this, like, 1 to 5 years ahead of me, and then I always try to think about this outcome in the in the next couple of years. And the reason for this, the reason that I don't really think further than that, it's not too long to get complacent. So I'm not like, okay, until I retire, I'm going to do this, then I can just, sit here and do nothing. So it's like, complacency is something that I try to avoid, but it's also not too short to being unrealistic, to, the set goals, achieve something fairly big. If you want to, start a family, buy a house, start a career, start a company, it's like you can't really say, I'm going to do it in 3 months or a month. So that type of thing. So I think this, throughout my life and career so far. This allowed me to review my life decisions from time to time. This also allowed me to course correct. So if I'm not going to the direction that, like this, think about when I was talking about Mango as a store manager, that's fine, it's a nice job, but there is nothing design or creative in it. I could have stayed there, I would, slowly probably like promote and become like a regional manager and a retail manager, whatever, but then I would have completely skipped the design career. And this, at the time, was something that I didn't want. If today was the case, I wouldn't still want it, because I like, design, creativity. It's a big part of my life. Now I'm trying to, move away from it, but I'm sure I'll find something related to it on the side, because it's, it sort of becomes your personality from after a point, and it's important for me. But also, how the decisions made in one life stage may not align with your future values or goals. So that's the important part also, to be flexible and open and, adaptable to future. That also, what I was thinking is that it benefits multiple ways, because it gives you a planned path of your own success, but it also gives you things to look forward to, because if you think about like next year, 2 years, I want to do this, it's something that kind of an excitement ahead of you. And also, when you're stuck, when life doesn't go as planned, you're not going to be as disappointed, because like thinking about like 10-15 years ahead of you, and then if you don't land in there, this is quite a big disappointment. But if you are disappointed within a year, you just go course correct, go this way, it's not big deal, I'll do it this way. So yeah. So with all that, we have actually talked about design thinking for life, because I wanted to bring the design, all this, education base that you're going through, I wanted to actually bring it to your life. Prototyping something for your path as well. So if you think about it, so far we were actually looking at busting the myths. We said like creating your own personal journey. We talked a little bit about this. This create, iterate, and micro pivot type of approach. So like, looking at different times, different stages, and creating some flexibility within that. Setting time blocks to measure success within your career. So a couple of examples, then I can go back to my life, how I approached to this. I changed, I moved different cities within the same country quite a few times. So, excuse me, initially back in Turkey, I was moving city to city. So I lived in 3 different cities in Turkey, and then moving away from that, then I changed countries. But changing a city and changing a country, they are like big, major things in life actually when you do it. Like it's going to be the same thing in the US, I would imagine, if you change states. I only lived here in California, but changing states probably is similar to changing, like halfway changing country, I would think. But what I was doing is that if I'm going a completely new city or a new country, I was trying to get a job that I am familiar with. Sometimes even like a level smaller. Like if I was in a big store, big volume store, back in Turkey, I was going a little bit smaller store, because what in my head I was thinking is that if I change too many variables all at once, it might overwhelm me. And I'm like, I need to find a new grocery store, I need to find a new, hairdresser, I need to find a new place to live, but at the same time I need to learn about this new job, and I have people reporting to me, all of those things. Changing all at once, it didn't feel logical to me. So most of the time, if I change a couple of variables, I would keep a couple same. So that work I'm familiar with, the teams that I worked with, the similar teams, doing similar jobs. So as soon as I arrived, day one, I meet with the people, hi, hello, then I know what I'm doing tomorrow. So like when I have that kind of comfort at work, then I can actually have enough headspace for myself to go and explore, okay, I need to learn drive from the right side instead of, those kind of things takes mental space in your brain. And, those things that you actually do automatically, naturally every day becomes something of a substance. You think about it, it takes brain power. So I was trying to balance that. At the same time, for example, I've been here now in LA, near and around LA. I lived 3 different places, but mostly West LA, West Hollywood, and Long Beach recently. But it's very similar. So I've been here for like 7.5, 8 years. Now I have everything sorted out. I know majority of the culture, where I go, what I do, all of those things. I was actually trying to create some variety on the other way. So I started to, like, this is one of them, obviously, Max coming back with you. But I was joining a voluntary board with my own school because they opened a voluntary board chair with it. I was joining with LA Design Festival in their board, trying to do some freelance interior design jobs outside of my comfort zone. And the whole idea is very similar to what I was trying to explain. It's just, understanding a different part of a job, or even if it's voluntary, you learn different functions or things to do in that job. Or interior design, actually the idea came to me because I wasn't familiar with the finishes and materials anymore. From the time that I've graduated to today, I only focus on certain things, which is like commercial and retail. So like polished concrete, the ceilings, all the commercial capacity. But when you look at the new materials in the house grade, floor finishes, what's the paint nowadays? Do you use wallpaper? What's the like the color schemes? All of those things. I was actually staying a little bit distant, and this actually brought me back to up to date with all of those things. So whatever the goal in your mind, I think you might be able to find something that can lead you to this goal, small steps or bigger. So I think what I want to encourage in you with this is that treat your career as a personal growth or a design project that involves testing, learning, and iterating. And I think if you think about design thinking loop in here with test, learn, and iterate, that could actually really help you to create something very, very interesting for yourself. Yeah, and navigating the uncertainty was another one. Like maybe like knowing your limits, because certain times when I actually overloaded myself with too many changes, I started to have, like one time I had like gastritis starting in me because I was like so much stress about everything. Or another time when I moved to UK, I realized I actually started to squeeze my chin when I was sleeping. So those things you need to actually manage in yourself, because nobody else knows those things about you. So this actually, with all these slides, that concludes this, but I also want to give some time with the questions. And then, I have one wrap-up slide, but we can do it after the questions, I think. Okay, yeah?